All right, here we are again. Global Challenge 213, 216, 4 years of right use of time, right use of mind. I'm Clarity Ross, helping facilitate this, and we are moving forward very rapidly now with right use of time, right use of mind, using the right affirmations. And we've started out very simply with video 1 and going through expanding upon it as we go. In this video, we are going to get into another usage of affirmations which we haven't touched on yet, which has to do with thoughts. Okay. So, how do we do this? Daydreaming. Let's say we're daydreaming. We'll say, this daydreaming can't teach the ego anything. This daydreaming doesn't need to be this straight daydreaming. Instead of this daydreaming, oneness is seen. And we can be specific. Let's be specific. This daydreaming about, this daydreaming about going on a vacation can't teach the ego anything. This daydreaming about going on a vacation doesn't need to be daydreaming about going on a vacation. Instead of this daydreaming about going on vacation, oneness is seen. So you can use this format when you start to daydream. Identify something in the daydream. Maybe you're daydreaming, let's say, about dinner tonight. Say, this daydreaming about dinner tonight can't teach the ego anything. This daydreaming about dinner tonight doesn't need to be daydreaming about dinner tonight. Instead of this daydreaming about dinner tonight, oneness is seen. Okay. We can be daydreaming about the past. Okay. Reverie about the past. this reverie about the past. This reverie about past friendships can't teach the ego anything. This reverie about past friendships doesn't need to be this reverie about past friendships. Instead of this reverie about past friendships, oneness is seen. So if your thoughts are going forward and you're daydreaming about the future or some situation, identify something in there. And you can even break down the parts of it. Like if you're daydreaming about going on vacation and you're thinking about a new car and driving somewhere, say, this daydream about a new car can't teach the ego anything. This daydream about a new car doesn't need to be a daydream about a new car. Instead of this daydream about a new car, oneness is seen. And then you're daydreaming about taking this new car, driving to some place, maybe a new house. This daydream about a new house can't teach the ego anything. This daydream about a new house doesn't need to be a daydream about a new house. Instead of this daydream about a new house, oneness is seen. This new place, you're going to a new place. This daydream about moving to a new place can't teach the ego anything. This daydream about moving to a new place doesn't need to be a daydream about moving to a new place. Instead of this daydream of moving to a new place, oneness is seen. So during the daytime, your thoughts will wander. You'll have let's say your thoughts will turn to some song. You're like, you say, this song can't teach the ego anything. Okay, this is like an internal song. Let's say you think humming along, like, oh, it's a catchy song. This song can't teach the ego anything. This song doesn't need to be this song. Instead of this song, oneness is seen. My thoughts about this song can't teach the ego anything. My humming this song can't teach the ego anything. My humming of the song doesn't need to be my humming of the song. Instead of my humming of this song, oneness is seen. You're listening to a song. My listening to this song on the radio, let's say listening to the radio, okay? My listening to this song on the radio can't teach the ego anything. My listening to the song on the radio doesn't need to be my listening to the song on the radio. Instead of my listening to the song on the radio, oneness is seen. Again, my listening to the song on the radio can't teach the ego anything. And my listening to the song on the radio doesn't need to be my listening to the song on the radio. Instead of my listening to the song on the radio, oneness is seen. So this is something that we often do. It involves something a little more abstract than like seeing a tree. You're listening to a song, and the song you're singing, maybe you're having thoughts about the song, you're feeling something, right? So it's like a more of a complete experience that we're used to having. So let's say you're driving along in your car and you're listening to the song on the radio, and you're having thoughts about the song, and you might be triggering daydreams, etc. And there's this whole constellation, right, of mental activity going on. So we will practice this sort of this more thought-based, internalized content. We'll practice before we've been using more externalized content and getting more personal. Now we're going into the interior of our thoughts and reactions, etc., combining it with something external, like a song. Okay, so this is very good practice. We'll start out with just the song. This song can't teach the ego anything. This song doesn't need to be this song. Instead of this song, oneness is seen. Then we say, my listening to this song can't teach the ego anything. Instead of my listening to the song doesn't need to be my listening to the song. Instead of my listening to this song, oneness is seen. Then we can say, my feeling that I have listening to this song can't teach the ego anything. My feeling that I have listening to this song doesn't need to be my feeling that I have listening to this song. Instead of my feeling that I have listening to this song, oneness is seen. My reverie that I have listening to this song can't teach the ego anything. My reverie that I have listening to this song doesn't need to be my reverie that I have listening to this song. Instead of my reverie that I have listening to this song, oneness is seen. So, then we can say song in the abstract. Keep going. Song, music can't teach the ego anything. Let's say music can't teach the ego anything. Instead of music doesn't need to be music. Instead of music, oneness is seen. Then we'll say another part is feeling, your reaction to it. Feeling, let's say listening. Okay, listening can't teach the ego. Listening to a song, let's keep it abstract. Listening can't teach the ego anything. Listening doesn't need to be listening. Instead of listening, oneness is seen. Now let's go to feeling, another component of this constellation of experience. Feeling can't teach the ego anything. Feeling doesn't need to be feeling. Instead of feeling, oneness is seen. Okay, so what we're doing is we're taking a constellation of an experience, components. There's the music, there's the listening to the music, and there's the feeling that you have the music. And now we'll use thoughts, reverie, or daydreaming. Let's use reverie. Reverie can't teach the ego anything. Reverie doesn't need to be reverie. Instead of reverie, oneness is seen. So we have the song, the listening, the feelings, the reverie. Okay? Those are multi-components of an experience, and how we use affirmations for that. It's a very powerful way, because as we go about in the world, of course, we're having all these experiences, and we need to be able to use the affirmations on the experiences. So one of them is you're driving in a car, because one thing most of us do is we hear music, we hear songs, okay? And we like listening to music, like, tapping our feet and feeling something, and then we kind of triggering some thoughts, like, I'd like to buy this or get something. And very important to practice with music. So we will practice this now. First of all, we'll do the specific, and then we'll go split the components up into the abstract. Okay, so there's two parts to this. There's a more advanced form of affirmation, the basic three parts, but 3 parts now being used on 2 different levels. One is the more specific, personal one, and then the other is the abstract, general one. So one starts out the song, the listening, I'm listening, I'm feeling, and I'm having reverie. Those things, okay? And the other is simply music in general, listening in general, feeling in general, and thinking in general. Okay, let's run it through here. Let's run it through. Smooth it out. Smooth it out. This song can't teach the ego anything. This song doesn't need to be this song. This song, let me start again. Instead of this song, oneness is seen. So this song this song can't teach the ego anything. This song isn't this song. Instead of this song, oneness is seen. Then say, my listening to this song can't teach the ego anything. My listening to the song doesn't need to be my listening to the song. Instead of my listening to the song, oneness is seen. Then my feeling of listening to this song can't teach the ego anything. My feeling of listening to this song doesn't need to be my feeling of listening to this song. Instead of my listening to the song, oneness is seen. And then my reverie off of the feeling of listening to the song can't teach the ego anything. My reverie off of the feeling of listening to the song doesn't need to be my reverie off of the feeling of listening to the song. Instead of my reverie on the feeling of listening to this song, oneness is seen. Okay, and that is the specific aspects, and we will practice this because it's a little more complex. So we'll go slowly. We'll go slowly, but it's important to build up facility with this, so that we can begin to apply it with the experiencing that we're having and catch ourselves immediately and say, I can use an affirmation right there. I'm listening to a song. Here's a song. I'm listening to it. I got this feeling. I got this reverie, and I'm being lost in the reverie. And suddenly you say, "Whoa, wait a minute!" Boom, and you can catch it right away, and pull yourself back into affirmation. So, again, the basic format is I will hold up the fingers. First part is and then the second part and the third part to the basic affirmation. And when I turn the light on, that's your turn to repeat it. Okay, so start out. This song can't teach you anything. Your turn. This song doesn't need to be this song. Instead of this song, oneness is seen. All right, so now we're going to go on to my listening to the song can't teach the ego anything. My listening to this song doesn't need to be my listening to this song. Instead of my listening to the song, oneness is seen. Okay. My feeling of listening to the song can't teach the ego anything. My feeling of listening to the song doesn't need to be my feeling of listening to the song. Instead of my feeling of listening to the song, oneness is seen. Okay. My reverie on the feeling of listening to this song. Can't teach the ego anything. My reverie on the feeling of listening to the song doesn't need to be my reverie on the feeling of listening to the song. Instead of my reverie on the feeling of listening to the song, oneness is seen. All right, very great. Not easy, but very doable, as you see. It's very doable. That's why practice is necessary. Practice will get you up to speed pretty darn quickly, very quickly. Now, there's a second component to this, which we will do. In that complex of experiencing song, listening, feeling, thinking, we have 4 components, right? We have the music, we have the listening, we have feeling, and we have thinking. So now we're going to use those affirmations of those in the abstract. Okay, so it would be like this. Music can't teach the ego anything. Music doesn't need to be music. Instead of music, oneness is seen. Listening can't teach the ego anything. Listening doesn't need to be listening. Instead of listening, oneness is seen. Feeling can't teach the ego anything. Feeling doesn't need to be feeling. Instead of feeling, oneness is seen. Thinking can't teach the ego anything. Thinking doesn't need to be thinking. Instead of thinking, oneness is seen. All right. This is a little easier because it's abstract. So we will, first I'll say it one time with you and you'll repeat, and then you're going to then do this on your own. It's pretty easy. This one's pretty easy. Okay, so I'm going to go, music can't teach the ego anything. Your turn. Music doesn't need to be music. Instead of music, oneness is seen. Listening can't teach the ego anything. Listening doesn't need to be listening. Instead of listening, oneness is seen. Feeling can't teach the ego anything. Feeling doesn't need to be feeling. Instead of feeling, oneness is seen. Thinking can't teach the ego anything. Thinking doesn't need to be thinking. Instead of thinking, oneness is seen. All right, now we're going to go back over it, and I'll introduce the abstract topic, and you're going to do the affirmations. So we're going to start off, first part, with music. And it starts off as, music can't teach the ego anything. Okay, so we're going to do the first part, go, music. Second part. Next one is listening. Go. Next one is feeling. Next one is thinking. Let's do it one more time. It's pretty simple. Let's start off with music. Listening. Feeling. Thinking. There you go. All right. Very great. Very powerful. To go back over what we did, we're getting into very useful advanced forms of affirmation here, actually, that we can utilize as we're going about our day, because we're not always sitting here in contemplation like this, in a quiet room, quiet place, focused, right? We're driving, we're talking, we're interacting, we're working, we're doing stuff, and it gets difficult at that time. That's what I've experienced, is there are certain routines that it gets difficult for us, like eating food is one, working is another. Driving is easy. Driving is a really, really great time to practice. Super great time, actually. But there are situations that arise, and our mind will start going off on tangents, and we'll start listening to music, we'll hear a song, we're shopping and stuff, and we need to be able to apply affirmations in those situations. So going forward, I will begin to introduce specific situations and the affirmations that can be used in those specific situations. But what we did here was we identified a constellation, a rapid constellation of listening to a song. We're driving a car, or we're listening to music in our room or on our computer, and we're feeling something, and we've got some reverie going. Okay, that's 4 parts, isn't it? 4 basic parts. The song itself, the listening to the song, the feeling that we're getting from listening to the song, and the reverie that starts to kind of bubble up from the feeling that we get from listening to the song. Those are 4 parts that happen boom, 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 boom. And suddenly we're caught in this constellation. And so we need to identify the constellation and realize, hey, I have an affirmation that can deal with that easily. No problem. And then after we make those affirmations and pull our mind back to affirmations, then we can go to the abstract, which is more powerful. It's very powerful. And we say, music can't teach the ego anything. Listening cannot teach the ego anything. Feeling can't teach the ego anything. And thinking can't teach the ego anything. And then we've taken ourselves out of this jail cell of constellation of music, listening, feeling, thinking. Suddenly liberated ourselves from it. And we feel like on top of the world, say, hey, wait a minute. I'm not trapped by any of this. I am not trapped by any of this. Right? And then you can start flying on more and more generalizations. This planet can't teach the ego anything. This planet can't teach the ego anything. Right? And you can work yourself up, and then you suddenly say, this galaxy, this solar system, this galaxy, this universe can't teach the ego anything. All-inclusive. This universe can't teach the ego anything. This universe doesn't need to be this universe. Instead of this universe, oneness is seen. And then you feel very, very, very liberated. And it's very profound. But how do you get there? We have to identify where we're at right now and catch ourselves where we're at right now. That's why we need to be very specific. We have to be very skilled and start out specific on specifics. So I believe this is enough for this first series of videos, where we've gotten from the very simple to the very complex, as it were, to identifying constellations that we're dealing with. Instead of, we may see a tree, and we're looking at the tree. Okay, this is the thing. The tree, we're looking at the tree, we're getting a feeling of looking at the tree, and then we're having thoughts based on the looking and the feeling of that tree. That's sort of the basic constellation, right, of where we're at. We're moving, and there's movement, and we're experiencing the movement, and we're having a feeling from that movement, and we're having thoughts based on the feeling of the movement. Say in a vehicle, a car, we're moving along. We're eating food. There's the food, there's the tasting of the food, there's the feeling that we get from the tasting of the food, and there's the thoughts that we have around the food, the tasting, and the feeling. There's basic constellations of experience. So, drinking, touching something. There's a thing. We're touching the thing. Like there's water. Let's say there's water and we're in a pool. There's water. We're splashing the water. We're having fun splashing the water. We're feeling the splash of the water. We're looking at the splash. We're getting a sensation from the water and splashing the water, and then we're getting thoughts based on that sensation or that feeling. So again, in that instance, we would say, this water can't teach the ego anything, and this splashing can't, this action, this splashing can't teach the ego anything. This feeling of splashing the water can't teach the ego anything, and the thoughts that I'm having on the feeling of splashing this water can't teach the ego anything. You see, so what we're going to do is get adept at breaking down these experiencing and making affirmations for each part of it, and then abstracting it. And abstracting it in that situation would be, water can't teach the ego anything. Feeling can't teach, touching can't teach the ego anything, or sensation can't teach the ego anything, or action. Let's put it this way: water can't teach the ego anything, action can't teach the ego anything, sensation can't teach the ego anything, and thoughts can't teach the ego anything. Okay, so in every situation that we're in, we can break it down that way, break it down in some pretty simple way, actually, and then abstract it, break it down, specifics of what's going on with us, then abstract it to include all such instances. Okay, and that gives an enormous feeling of liberation, and that is the power of affirmations. They may seem very simple, basic, but you can use them in these very generalized ways, and you can use them in any situation that we're in. So, okay, this is enough for this series at this point, unless I make another one. I don't know if I will or not, but maybe something will come to mind. But we will have a series of, I'll put myself in situations, or narrate it or something, or maybe put myself there, I don't know, possible, and show how to break these situations down. I haven't tested this part out yet. I might have to test pilot this a little bit to see how it's done, but these videos that I've just done, this first series, is enough for you to work on. It really is. It's really enough for you to work on, and just do the first videos. Go back and do the first videos. I know you've probably already done them, but if you hear this video and you haven't, go back and do those first. But review. Get up to speed, because eventually we'll be able to start practicing breaking down the situations that we're in, and identifying very quickly what we're going through, and then making the right affirmations for that, and then expanding it and generalizing it, and then abstracting it totally. So we can say this song, or then these types of songs, like listening to a country song, rock song, whatever the easy listen, pop song. Let's say a pop song. Listen to a pop song, jazz, folk music, whatever. Listening to jazz. Okay, we're listening to this jazz song. Easy jazz, easy listening jazz. This song, and then this genre. This easy listening jazz can't teach the ego anything. And then this modern music can't teach the ego anything. And then music can't teach the ego anything. You can climb the ladder there. Okay, you can go that way. You can climb the ladder in each specific. Also, So it does get more involved as we go along, and that's why practice of the basics is very important. So all right, very great. We've made an enormous big boost, a big jump into the global challenge. Global challenge is to actually do this. That is the challenge. So I'm actually doing this, you see, taking up the challenge. And each one of us doing it, we're giving an enormous boost to the planet, an enormous boost to everyone, to the universe. An enormous boost, because we're saying this universe can't teach the ego anything, which is a statement of fact. It's a statement of fact. Because what the ego is trying to learn is how to separate us from reality. And that can never be learned, can never happen. But that is all that it's trying to learn. And so how can the impossible be taught? It cannot. So we say this universe cannot teach the ego anything. That is a statement of fact. And since it can't teach the ego anything, it doesn't need to be a thing. The universe doesn't need to be a universe. This universe doesn't need to be this universe. Means it doesn't need to be looked at as a thing, as a universe. Okay? The last part of the affirmations is, instead of this universe, meaning instead of looking at this universe as a thing, as a universe, oneness is seen. Oneness is seen. So instead of this universe, looking at this universe, oneness is seen. Just oneness. The oneness. That is. It's not this, it's not that, it's not that. It's just the oneness that is. It's seen. Okay. So that is the reasoning behind these affirmations. Is first we recognize that we can't teach the ego anything. This universe can't teach the ego anything, which is very true. It cannot. Nothing can teach no thing can teach the ego anything. But this universe can't teach the ego anything. Therefore, this universe doesn't need to be this universe. It doesn't need to be looked at as a thing. Therefore, instead of looking at it as a thing, we can switch over to seeing oneness. Oneness is seen. It's not we're the ones seeing it. It's being seen. So there's no seer. It's being seen. Okay. It's not I am seeing it, because I am a thing. Thingness doesn't see. Seeing sees. The oneness sees the oneness. Okay. So there you have the reasoning behind all of this. And so this is a great start. A great start. A great start. And a great start means great results, doesn't it? Once begun, half done. Okay. Appreciate the viewership, and just practice, and we'll see you in the next video.